Hello, friends. It is Comics Workshop coming to you Friday for our Friday live doodle, live draw. Coming to you live from merrickbennett.com. And thank you to the patrons over on the Patreon there. All right. I'm going to do something a little different today. I've got some paper, I've got a pencil. I have some inking tools too, and we'll come back to that. I'm going to start with pencil, as always, and then we'll move on to inking, and then we'll erase anything we want to clean up. And you can draw along, or you can eat your lunch and watch, and we'll make some artwork happen here. I am posting in the chats a link to the Patreon if you want to join up and get some get the updates and invites for future draws. So today, wow, let's review here. We've had some fun Friday doodles. We've had some trees and rings. We've had some storyscapes. Oh, last week we did the puffy chickadees. So something a little different today. I want to practice some boxes and some perspective and space drawings. So let's just start. We're going to just cover this page with little boxes. So I'll just work with my pencil to do something like a square. It can be a rectangle or a square. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I have a ruler here, but I kind of want to draw this freehand. So I'm going to set the ruler aside and just free myself up and let it develop as it is. If it comes out a little bit squishy and wonky and wobbly, that's going to be fine. It's going to look really lively. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to turn this square into a 3D cube. And the way to think about that, well, actually, I made a little practice cube out of paper trying to get my mind around this because this is an amazing object. So I'm going to take this little cube and I'm going to look at it as a square. That kind of looks like a square right there. Oh, I got the size just right. And then I want to sort of rotate it slightly so I can actually see the sides. And there's some shading there. And I notice I can see edges here. 1, 2, 3 edges going off there. So we'll just set that aside. And we're actually going to try, actually, I'll hold it right here. I'm going to try that with this cube. So let's see if we can get those edges going off. I notice if I look down on the cube, those edges go up to the sides like this. So maybe I'll just do the same angle here. That might be a little long, but I can erase it down. And let's see. Do this one. And we're not going to worry about perspective and vanishing points. We're just going to do them all in the same direction because this cube, it's not super, super close to us. So it's going to just have them all going basically in the same direction there. All right. Now here's the trick. This is what makes it really look like a cube. If you just connect the backs of these lines, we make sure they're all going in the same direction, parallel, right? They never would meet if we extended them on and on to infinity, they would never meet. If we just connect the backs of them, this isn't really going to look much like a cube. Let's see. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this back is parallel with this edge here, this side on the front. So that would be, I'll set my cube aside. That would be this side right here. I'm going to get it into my hand by tracing it. And I'll come up here a little ways and I'll get it about the same, in the same direction there. Right? That is, I can even test it with a straight edge, although I don't really need to. So if I line it up there and then just slide it over, it should be lined up with that back edge. Okay. No angling, no changing of the angle. Same with this. I'm going to get this, come around here with my hand, and I'll get this line into my hand like this, get that direction, and come back here and connect it with that corner right there. And then, oh, that looks like it changed a little bit, doesn't it? I'm gonna adjust it slightly because it looks a little funny to my eye. And then we can erase these extra lines. And that should be about what we're looking at with a cube, right? And one little thing I've noticed, let's do another one of those. I'll just rough out a little square here, little wobbly, little hand-drawn. One thing I've noticed is if I try to get those lines going in the same direction, and if I don't get the back lines going in the same direction, it's going to look all squishy and wobbly. So make sure this back line aligns with that front line like that. And this back line, I'll get it into my hand by tracing, come over here and get it going parallel there. And that should look like a nice solid cube. And we'll do, like I said, we're gonna do something really fun with these, but first we're gonna fill the page with them. So let's do like a larger square over here. You can do rectangles, you can do squares, and let's go as if we're looking up at this one. So let me rotate this. So those edge lines are gonna come down. I'll go like this, down, same length, same direction, same length, same direction. Then I should be able to get this straight up and down line, straight up and down here, more or less. I'll work it in, sketch it in, get this straight across line. I kind of go like this, or you can come in underneath, but I'll get this straight across line. Oh, my arm is still shivering from feeding the birds out of the bird feeder just now. I get a little wiggle in my line. That's fine though. Whoop, that one looks a little funny, doesn't it? Let's adjust that like that. All right. Now let's try this. Let's put some small squares, some big squares. Let's even let our squares overlap a little bit. We're going to make a square parade, crazy square zoo, crazy cube zoo. We'll let this one overlap with that bottom side there. And you'll see what happens when they overlap here in a moment. Do some medium-sized ones, some large ones. If you have a little space over here, we'll tuck a couple small squares in here. They're not cubes yet. And then maybe down here, and leave some space between some of them and let some of them touch. Come up with a little herd of squares, and then we'll turn them all into cubes. And the trick is we're going to make them all go in different directions. So it's going to look like a crazy jumble of cubes all tumbling over each other. Then we're going to come in here and do a very simple little change that's going to totally change the meaning of these abstract shapes. So this one looks like we have some room up here. Maybe I'll make this one go up. And remember, if I connect the ends of those lines, it's going to look all squishy. It won't really look like a cube. So I want to go back a good distance, what seems about right, and make sure this back edge is parallel with the front edge. Back front edge, parallel back edge. That should look a little better, a little more cubey. And the more of these you practice, the more of these you do, the more cubey they will get. Oh, you know what would be fun? These are all like very square on the page. What if I did one that was kind of diagonal, a diamond, a crooked diamond here? Well, I can make that into a cube just by rotating it and looking at it as a square, bringing my lines down and doing the same thing here. So I get the front edge, back edge parallel. I could even rotate the whole page to make this easier. That's a little easier to do my parallel lines this way because my arm moves this way rather than across. Let's see. So up and down front edge, up and down back edge. Oh, that works that works really well. Actually, you can turn this over, can't you, and see all your cubes from a different angle. Let's bring these edges back. Front edge, back edge, parallel. Front edge, back edge, parallel. What's going to happen with this funny square here? I think it's actually going to tuck in behind this one like that. And then I can only see this front edge, back edge. That looks kind of cool. This one seems like it could come back down because we have a little room underneath here. That means, ooh, these are really going to overlap. Looks like this. So I'm watching this front edge, back edge, parallel. I'm going to rotate it again. You start to see these cubes in front of you. These aren't actually cubes, of course. This is just an optical illusion we're doing on the paper. Oh, and you'll like this. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 more, and then we're going to start transforming them. So I'm going to bring this one down. One. So front edge, back edge, parallel. Front edge, back edge, parallel. Now you can do 1 or 2 cubes on your paper. You can fill it up with cubes. I get too complicated here. I get so excited about doing these. Front edge, back edge, parallel. Front edge, back edge parallel. I get so excited about doing more and more cubes that I just keep drawing them. Let's see. Back sides, front edge. This is getting a little confusing, so I'm going to stop drawing cubes after this one, this medium-sized one. I'll bring these edges down. These cubes look like they're stacked on top of each other. Front edge, back edge are going to be parallel. Front edge, back edge parallel. Okay, I am ready to go. I have some cubes here. So I'm going to just come in and ink one of these so we can see it clearly. And the ink really helps you see the shape. I'm going to ink. Oh, that one got a little wonky, but that's okay because I'm going to shade it in next. And maybe I'll ink this one here. All right, so what I want to start thinking about, there's two things I can do to transform this cube. One is I can come in and I can shade it. So if the light's coming from up above and I'm looking up, you notice how this side is a little shady and this side is really dark. So maybe I can do light shading here and really dark shading here. Of course, inked, that might look like, I like that look. I might just put thin lines going along the side. And then here I might do thicker lines closer together. Or I might do a crosshatch there, right? And that'll start to look like it's resting on, it's rising up out of the paper. The other thing we can do here is, let me do one of these big ones. Let's do a big cube here. I'm going to ink the front face. And then I'm going to drop these sides back. That looks really cool. And I'll do the back edges. Okay, and then we said the bottom, if the light is from the top, the bottom's going to be darker. You can do this in pencil if you're not sure. So I might come in here and do a dark bottom there, and then a less dark side, just a little bit of shading on that side there. You know, I think that bottom needs to be a little more shaded, so I'll do another layer of lines, and that darkens it right up. Now that's looking like a nice, heavy, deep cube rising up out of the paper. The other thing, of course, that we can do is we can create a little shadow behind it to make it look like it's floating a little bit. So I might come in here and just shadow behind it with my pencil. That looks really cool too. Okay, that's the first transformation, right? The first transformation is shading them and turning them into three-dimensional objects. But the second transformation, my personal favorite as a cartoonist, I'll do this one. My personal favorite transformation as a cartoonist is this. I'm going to use some of my storytelling tools. You remember my storytelling toolbox here. So I have my, these are create a story really fast when you work them into your picture. We have faces, actions, setting, and text. You can work any of those into your cubes. So first one, oh, maybe I'll start with this cube. I'm just going to work a face onto that cube. Look at that. That little cube becomes a little character, right? Actually, or you can also, I meant to say we could turn these into dice, couldn't we? We could sort of come in here and put down a die and then try to replicate those patterns. So I see the 5 has spots in the corner and one in the center. So I'll find the corners, one in the center. 3 goes from a corner to a corner and one in the center. So that helps me visualize that diagonal line there. 6, oh, this is a tricky one. Actually, it's going to go 1 in the corner, 1 in the middle of the edge and across, and then same for the back edge. And those dots actually help me see how these lines work on this cube. And it helps me sort of figure out, you notice these dots don't line up straight above each other. They line up on the same line that this back edge has. So there's same line, parallel lines there. So that's pretty cool. That helps us sort of see the shape, adding those on. But I'm going to come back to these faces. I want to add faces and actions in here. And this is the funnest part. So let's do a slightly more cartoony, interesting face. I'll give it 2 eyes. I'll give it slightly crossed pupils, and I like to put a little white gleam into the pupil like that. And then let's give it a smile. So I'll give it a flat top to the mouth and a curve. And what kind of teeth should we give it? Let's give it round teeth. And we could give it a little tongue. That'll be like a pink little tongue. And then maybe we just black in all around it. Oh, and we're going to do something else with this one. We're going to give this one arms. And the arms are going to come off the sides. And here's my favorite kind of arm to draw. I've already drawn this line. Oh, well, let's give it simple arms. I could just draw a little hand or a wing or something on that side, and then maybe an arm here. I'll have to tuck it behind that cube. That would be like the short arm option, right? But let's give this one some longer arms. So 2 ways to plan. I can wait and not draw these sides, and I'll have the arm come off of here. I can go back to pencil, I suppose. And I'll have the arm come off of here. Maybe this arm goes around the die. We can tuck it behind the die and come around here. My favorite way to draw these, because I do a lot of these without penciling at all, is I'll just do a squiggle arm. So it's like a slinky. See that? I can sort of loop around and around, and it makes it feel sort of round. Maybe I'll bring it down here and I'll put a little hand, thumb and 3 fingers on the end. That's kind of cool. That looks like it's resting on this one. And then I'll give it, I'll outline that squiggle so it's got like a sleeve around it. And those squiggle arms can bend any which way they need to. They can stretch out any which way they need to. Let's see. Let's tuck this squiggle arm. Now you can't see where it comes into the side, but I'll just squiggle it around behind the die. And maybe it's coming down and resting on this cube here. I'll just do that little outline sleeve. And then we'll give it the same kind of arm that we did over here. So 3 pointy fingers and a thumb. Put the thumbs on the other side. There we go. Oh, this one needs a face. So let's do something a little different with this. Let's try putting the eyes up here. I'm going to, just like we did with these lines for the 6s, they're going to be parallel to the edge. I'm going to angle these eyes back so they look like they're right along the top there. And we can let's even give them like an edge. See that? It kind of tucks them in and gives them an edge. There we go, because we're looking across the hole. Oh, it's like a hole on the top of the box, and then we can put an eye inside there. That's a cool little trick. You can do simple eyes if you want, but I'm sort of following my imagination, and I just got this idea that I'll put eyes in there, little eyeballs, and then dark shadows around them. That might make your cube a little creepy. And then, oh, because we have these openings in the top, let's put an opening in the bottom too. Let's make it the same shape as the front, like it's just an opening in the front. Now, think this through. If this were a transparent cube, I would see the back edge here. I would see we have this edge here. The bottom edge will go up like this, right? This, so they would meet right there. The back edge will go across and meet right there. So that all lines up. Now, I'm not going to ink these test lines here. I'm just going to ink what you see when you look through the mouth. Let's put some little teeth on the top there. And we can put some little teeth on the bottom. Munch, 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 munch. And then we'll do this corner going back. Does that sort of look like you're looking right through a big box? I know something we can do to make it look a lot more like that. If we have our light coming down from the top, inside that mouth will be shaded. So we'll have a lot of shadow on this side. And we'll have a little less shadow on the bottom here. So I'll do some lines going along the bottom. I like to trace along the edges, the faces of the cube. That looks kind of cool. You know what I might do is a tongue in here. I'll do like a cartoon tongue, and then I'll do cross lines just to darken it a little bit. It's getting a little fancy though. Oh, that one, I like that face. It's sort of shouting at me as it rests its hands on these cubes. All right, I'm going to keep going here. Let's try some really crazy cubes. One of my favorite cubes I'll introduce you to. Let's do the front face. And then the sides. This one we tucked behind that smaller cube. Now, before I do the back side, the back edge there, I'm going to bring a line right down the middle of this. See how that line goes in the same direction as the back edges? We really have two kinds of lines here. We have the lines that stay in the plane of the paper that either go up and down or across in those two dimensions. And we have lines that are coming at us out of the paper. So all the ones that are coming at us out of the paper or into the paper are diagonals. And this one goes in the same direction as these edges. We'll bring a steep line straight up from the back, and then we'll, as high as you want it to be, and then we'll sort of curve it down to the front. Does that look like a shark fin there? I like those shark fins. This is the shark cube, my friend the shark cube, and I'll give it a fin off that side and maybe a fin off this side. And we'll put a back edge on there. Oh, don't forget the tail fin, which sort of sticks out just like that. You can't really see it from this angle. And don't forget an eye and a little mouth and a couple little shark fangs. Or you could do an open mouth on this one. I like to do a little chubby mouth. I kind of want to make those eyes fancy. So let's turn those eyes into big circles, and then we'll put big pupils up there. That makes it extra cute. And then I'll put a little light shine, whichever direction my light's coming from. I'll leave a little white shine in those pupils. Oh, that is a cute shark. Don't forget the gills. You don't want your shark to not be able to breathe as it swims along there. All right, let's do a couple more here. So you can keep drawing these anytime you want. One other thing that I'll show you that I like to do with these is I come in, I actually have a couple other colors here, so I'll choose another color. These are just regular gel pens. I like to go around behind these cubes, and I'll do like a fancy sort of couple lines that way and a couple lines this way, and it makes it sort of scratchy and hatched. But watch what it does behind these arms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll come up with a pattern, and I'll just crosshatch, crosshatch. And that arm will start to look a little more solid. We'll see it better over here. I won't draw my color lines through the arm. That's one option you can do if you want to doodle some color in here. I tend to draw these pretty fast. I don't think about them much. I kind of watch them as they discover each other on the page. I want to show you a couple others before we go. So if you have a couple more minutes in your lunchtime, if you're watching this live, I'll introduce you to a couple more friends. Does that one look like it's kind of popping up off the page with the color behind it? I like that effect. You can get the same effect with black ink though. Let's try on this big one. I'll show you my favorite giant cube design. So this one's going to be a hungry cube. So we'll put a big face on it. We'll put the bottom edges on. Maybe we'll leave a little room. We'll put a little wing here, and we'll put a little wing here coming off the sides, just so this one can fly okay. And then we're going to put a, you know what, I'll put some guidelines here, right in the middle of each edge. Right in the middle of this edge. Yeah, that's a pretty square one. So I'm going to make a circle here. I'm going to go back to pencil just to see how this looks. I'm going to make a circle, and at each of those points, it gets its closest to the edges. That doesn't look very circular. That's okay. Doesn't have to be perfectly circular. We'll get it about as round as it needs to be. Now this is going to be a huge mouth. I don't know if this one will even have room for a face on the front. Why don't we put two little eyes on here? Circle, circle. And maybe it's looking over at the other cubes. And if you put square or round teeth, it'll look kind of friendly. If you put monster sharp fangs on here, it'll look a little Well, it could still look friendly, depending on what kind of food you are, I guess. Oh, I kind of like that. That's really eye-catching. As you can see, I could be here for an hour or more creating all these cubes. I'm going to keep going with this one. I'm going to keep going with this this page, and I will fill this page and I'll post it to the Patreon. And you can check over there. I'll post that again. Cassandra says, mesmerizing. Well, you can draw it. It makes you believe that you can draw it too. You certainly can. I'm going to post the link to the Patreon in the comments there. And you should see that soon. Oh, I got to think here. So I'm going to find, I don't know if we can see the back of this mouth. Let's just go back into this cube. I'm glad we penciled this out because this helps us plan. I'll bring the back edge up from that back corner. Let's make sure we get it parallel to this side. Okay, I'll bring the top back edge, which we can't see, back from here. It's got to be parallel to this one. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. We're looking through this cube at its back edge. I'll bring this back edge right across that way. My question is, if this mouth is a tube that goes right through that cube, will we see it? Let's draw that mouth shape onto that back edge. See that back edge right there? It is right here. That is the back face of the cube. Here's that mouth shape. Answer, we can't really see very much of it, but we will see a little. So watch this. We'll draw just that top edge there. And then probably in here, the top of this creature's, oh, we have space in there. You know what I like to do when there's a lot of space in one of these mouths? I just thought of this, but like I say, I like to doodle, and I go with my imaginary instinct. I'm going to do another square, bring it back, and this will be one that's floating. And you can decide if you do one inside the mouth, is it happy to be in there? Maybe it has little horns. Maybe it has little fins on the side. Maybe it has little feet on the bottom. Is it happy to be in there? Does it feel safe? Or is it freaking out because it's getting swallowed by a giant cube? There's nothing to worry about because as we can see, there's daylight on the other side of this cube. You pass right through these cubes when they swallow you. And I love how these, this is what I mean by the storytelling tools. When you add faces and actions and setting and text details, I guess the setting would be this background, you start to get stories. You start to get a sense of stuff growing and changing and interactions happening. And we notice that these are all pretty happy looking cubes, but every now and then you get one that looks a little more frightening. And that's okay too, when you start to get those emotions interacting on the page. I'm thinking the top of this creature's mouth is going to be super dark, and maybe the sides where a little light gets in will be a little less dark. So let's try that. Come in here and scribble shade it. If I want it super, super dark, I'll break out a marker and black it in. You can totally draw, I mean, when you start drawing, if you could draw a square or a rectangle or a shape that's remotely like them, and then you bring those back sides back and you connect them all the way we've been doing here, your eye starts to see space. It starts to see maybe an open mouth going through a giant cube and a little cube inside it. And when your eye, your imagination sees that space, we get a feeling of moving through it. So we use that in comics a lot. You look at an image and you feel like you're able to move through it. I'm thinking before I shade the bottom, you notice all this stuff that we use to plan is going to go away. All this stuff where it overlaps is going to go away. That's why I use those basic pencil lines. And you can plan as detailed as you need to be. All right. So one thing I want to make sure we get here is maybe there are like some little toes right here as this little creature stands on the cube it's on. Or maybe, you know what would be even better for this one? Maybe it has like front legs here coming down from each corner. This is where we practiced finding our corners and the middles. coming down from each corner, coming down from this corner. So it's like it's got little toes here. It's a four-legged cube, and it's got the little wings too. Squiggle line, sleeve, squiggle line, sleeves. We'll give it some little toes. All right. I'm going to do one more here. I'm going to make this one running. So I'll do squiggle line going back, squiggle line coming forward. I like to give some of these like little sneakers. So I'll give it a bottom and a toe, or ice skates or something like that. This sneaker comes forward, bottom and toe, and maybe we can see the bottom of the sneaker as it comes forward. Some laces. Put the sheath on there. And now it's running out at us. All these others I'm going to give arms and legs. I'm going to color them in. I'll show you one last thing with the coloring. The reason I started going back and doing the backgrounds with these colors is the colors add a sense of light, a sense of shade. And also, if I do all this red in the background and in different patterns, and I do some red in here, you'll notice that helps you see right through that square and see the background behind it, because the background has a different kind of value. And also with the shading, if you have like a darker purple, you can come in and do shading underneath. And maybe the purple makes a better shade than your black lines. And I like to combine colors like that. I just play with this. I'm going to be posting over on the Patreon. I'll post this page in multiple stages. I've got a couple more pages in the sketchbook. We're doing some class pictures over in the sketchbook, so I'll post these too. This one's just coming together. I have to finish that one, so I don't know what's going to happen to that one, but we'll see what happens over there. And I want to give a shout out to my Children's Literacy Foundation students before we go. I've been making minis with some students at a couple schools here in New Hampshire all week, and we have a new mini. This will be over at the Patreon too. It's all about birds and the Earth's magnetic field and some science facts behind that. I didn't know this stuff before I started drawing with these 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. They've also got me looking at the French and Indian War in the 1750s and my own little project about a name from Canterbury, New Hampshire history, Sabatis, and the story of where that name comes from. As you can see, I have a lot of work to do on these minis. But thanks to my students, my Children's Literacy Foundation cartoonists who have been drawing their own comics all month here. I'm going to keep working on this, keep on doodling, keep creating. We'll be back for more Friday doodles next week. Monday, we have some kind of craziness with our music monsters going on. So again, you know, head over to the Patreon if you want the updates, and we'll be back in your feed as soon as we can. Talk to you folks soon. Nice to draw with you. Have a wonderful weekend. And be well, everybody.